Comparison is just a thing that we do. Everybody does it. And we're told this advice to not compare ourselves, that everyone's journey is different, and that Instagram's only the highlight reel. And that is great advice, and that is true. But who is talking about past self-comparison? This is not a topic often discussed, and so I wanted to attempt to tackle that today in this video. Past self-comparison is looking back at a previous version of yourself, maybe from years ago, decades ago, and admiring or worshiping that self and wondering why you are no longer that way. Specifically regarding mental healthness. I'm going to start calling it that. Mental health and mental illness. I'm going to talk about it kind of through that lens. So maybe, at least for my personal experience, the past me that I'm looking at is the past me that thrived and seemed to do really well, and that's before I had more prominent mental health issues. And so my mental illness affected me and my personality, I feel like. And so this is kind of a video of me trying to tackle that head on, because my experience, I always think of my past self-comparison as my high school self. And so that was 2012 to 2016, so a little while ago. And I always think of myself as energetic, super motivated, super involved, like got out of bed at normal times and did stuff the whole day long and didn't have to like really pause. At least that's how I remember it. And so I always compare my current self to the past self, like what happened to me and why can't I be like that, and is that my true self and like what I'm supposed to be doing now? And that can be pretty unhealthy. I'm really putting that self on a pedestal, and that's not who I am anymore. And I think about my past self often and like, who is that helping? Because I'm not using it in a productive way anyway. So I'm really going to try to overcome that and get past my past self comparison. I will also say I kind of use my past self as like a way in therapy or in psychiatry or in my own mind to make it, my mental illness, seem even more severe, because I'm always like, well, I used to be this way, so see how bad it is? And so I do that. I don't know if anybody can relate to that. It's really, really hard to think that your younger self or your teenage self is somehow better than who you are now. You feel like you've failed in the past couple years then, and you feel like something went wrong along the way, and maybe something did go wrong. Maybe your mental health, you didn't pay attention to your mental health, and it got more in a decline. But I digress. So first I'm going to note the impermanence of self, and like the impermanence of like different selves as you're growing, as well as different personality traits and identity. Like it's all growing and it's impermanent. So who you are now is not who you're going to be, and it's not who you have been, and that's really how it is. And I'm gonna compare it to a carefully thought out metaphor about butterflies. It's gonna be really fun. I researched butterflies a little bit for this, and I think that's cool. Then I'm gonna outline actual things that you can do, actionable steps that could help. And I'm also going to have a worksheet in the video and link down below that you can actually fill out and like work through these steps. It's gonna be really awesome. So, impermanence. The transformation of caterpillars into butterflies is a visual and physical and biological outward-facing representation of how we change inevitably. So, as you may know from grade school, a butterfly follows a typical 4-stage insect life cycle. You may remember that it's egg, caterpillar, chrysalis, and then the adult butterfly. So do you think a butterfly, when it moves from one stage to another, is still hanging on to its old self and like still acting in those patterns of behavior and wishing it was that old self? I'm guessing not, because I feel like that past self-comparison is just going to hold you back from growth to the next phase. And butterflies are always growing into the next phase. So relating that to personal and character growth, like a butterfly, you're always going to be growing and changing, because like that is the name of the game in life, is change. That's the one thing you can count on. And so in order to survive, you have to adapt. Is that not Darwinism? I am so sciencey in this video, and it's awesome. So anyway, those adaptations, the ways that you change, will change you ultimately. Just because you feel like you're declining doesn't mean you're not growing. Paths to a self that you like and a path that you, or a person that you aspire to be, are not linear. We're kind of conditioned to think that every day has to be better than last, every project has to be bigger, every job has to be better, and that like backtracking is bad. Ultimately, backtracking is just a construct, and I don't think that backtracking means not growing. It probably actually means growing. I've even heard stories where it's like someone in the professional world felt like they were stepping down into a lower position, but it was much more fulfilling. And so that's not backtracking. And plus the anxiety of not knowing who you're going to be is beauty in itself, because it's a mystery and you're just going to continue becoming. You're never going to became. You're just going to continue becoming. So now we're going to move into things that you can actually do. And so I want you to download and write on this worksheet too that I made. I think it's so cool. I made a worksheet. That's so cool. I hope somebody uses it because I think it's really helpful. So you can follow along on there or just kind of listen along. So the first thing that you can do is to thank that self, because that previous self existed for a reason. It was to get you through a certain time, and it did. Like, you survived that time, right? And so whether it was a coping mechanism or it really just was your personality at the time, cool. That's great. Thank yourself for getting through that time, using coping mechanisms that you did, and ultimately getting to where you are. And how you chose to do that doesn't have to be the way that you do things forever and ever and ever. So this is my thank you to myself that I wrote on my worksheet. I said, thank you. So this is to my high school self. Thank you for exploring hobbies of yours, making some extra cash, building out a resume of experience you can pull from now, forming relationships, and involving yourself in the high school experience. So that will be a thank you note to your past self. Next thing, admire that self, but don't worship that self. Even if there are characteristics you wish you still had now, such as like intrinsic motivation, or you were happy, or you had a lot of friends. And if you find yourself worshiping your old self, we're going to do the peaks and pitfalls method, which I came up with. So anyway, so redefine your peaks and be really specific about what did you peak in. Was it like academic success, professional success, kindness, like family time, popularity? What was the peak? And then identify what some of the pitfalls were or could have been. So there's really a dark side to everything, right? And so maybe it was you didn't sleep enough, you were super irritable, you didn't get to spend any time with your family, like whatever it was, that was a pitfall. And so you have to remember not to, wear the rose-colored glasses when looking back on your past self. Remember the actual real problems. There's always a problem. So remember those actual real problems that were happening. For mine, I said, I peaked in grades and involvement in school and clubs in high schools, and at what cost? Lack of rest, lack of fun, and time spent with girls and friends. So I didn't have a lot of time like hanging out with people, and so I kind of missed that. That was a pitfall of an academic and extracurricular peak I had. So essentially these are all considered cognitive behavioral therapy techniques, so CBT. And a lot of mental illnesses are treated through CBT therapy, and that can help a lot. And so basically what CBT is, it's just rewiring thoughts in your brain to go a certain direction and kind of tricking it into other ways and just thinking through what you're thinking, kind of. And so here's another one, and this is like a real one that they'll talk about in therapy. The other ones, like the thank you note, they might talk about in the peaks and pitfalls. I kind of came up with that. So anyway, but here's a real one, and it's called talkbacks. So when you find yourself talking to yourself about, but you used to be able to have a really long to-do list and get everything done. You can say things like, well, great for me, but I have a different method now that I use. I love talkbacks because you actually force yourself to learn them because you're creating them for you, so you're much more likely to use them because you know what you're going to use and what you're going to not. So here's some examples. Oh, and also note that it is especially helpful if you make these before the situation and you have them accessible for the situation happening. So like, I don't want to get out of bed. You're not going to sit there, okay, let me come up with my talkback. No, have a talkback on your phone that you can read, So, I don't want to hang out with my friend. I've said that. My talkback could be, no, you don't want to get out of bed. But that's a means to getting good food and good company. So that would be a really good talkback. That would work for me. I used to be so motivated. Here's my talkback. So what? Here's another talkback. Who cares? Here's another talkback. Okay, that doesn't mean you can't or won't have any motivation ever again. Another talkback. Who says I can't have motivation today? Another talkback. Who says I need to be motivated to do whatever on this particular day? I mean, maybe if it's your job, but like, it could work. So this video was long, and so I want to conclude by just linking the past self worksheet down below. Make sure you check that out. I'm going to be talking about it on Instagram as well, so be sure to follow me over there. Maybe we can share some things from our worksheet, or not. You can just share that you did it. Thanks so much for watching. As always, I'll catch you back here Mondays at 10 a.m. and on Instagram at youseemnormal, like literally every day. Don't be normal. Is that good? Is that a good ending? Don't be normal.